In 1986, Crocodile Dundee released. The film was about an Australian bushman with a legendary reputation. A reporter named Sue wanted to see if the many feats of this man were actually true. So she decided to make the trek to a small township in northern Australia to find him. At first, the man named Mick Dundee did not seem all too impressive. However, as she spends more time with the man, she comes to realize that he is just as impressive. No, more so than his reputation. The film did incredibly well, generating $328 million globally, with a modest budget of only $10 million. When she first saw the movie, Ginger Meadows was enthralled with the film. From the beautiful Australian landscape to Mick's charm and charisma, she was especially drawn to how Mick fought off a large saltwater crocodile and survived with only a small wound to his leg. It was at this point Ginger knew she had to travel to Australia to experience it all. So in 1987, Ginger left for northern Australia. Unfortunately for her, it would be the last trip she would ever take, as unlike the crocs in the film, they're a hell of a lot more dangerous than the movie portrayed. And unfortunately, Ginger would find out how truly terrifying they really are. Hello, my name is Joseph Palmer, and today I wanted to dive into the story of Ginger Meadows, a model who in 1987 decided to visit Australia after she saw the movie Crocodile Dundee, and how she was fatally killed in front of her friend. Now without further ado, let's dive in. Ginger Meadows decided to travel to Australia after watching the movie Crocodile Dundee, along with her friend and chef, Jane Burchett. The two booked a trip on the Lady G, a luxurious boat, before planning to head on to Papua New Guinea. The Lady G arrived at Cascade Falls, a beautiful waterfall south of Darwin, on the 29th of March in 1987. The waters in northern Australia were known to be infested with crocodiles. The saltwater crocodile is the largest crocodile in the world and can grow up to 6 meters long, and are opportunistic hunters that are known to treat humans and other animals as prey. The skipper of the boat had advised Meadows that she was not even so much as to dip a toe in the water. Crocodiles are ambush predators and often lunge out of the water and drag their prey in. Backing this up in a later interview with the Daily Mail was the ship captain, Bruce Fitzpatrick, who said, quote, "Ginger Meadows was told not to get into the crocodile-infested waters, but she failed to heed the warning. Ginger and her friend decided to go for a swim in the water anyway. Not long after, the two found themselves pinned up against the wall of a waterfall. The skipper saw a crocodile approaching the women and screamed out to them, but it was too late. The saltwater predator was too fast for the girls to get back to the boat for safety, so instead they backed up to the waterfall's wall, still waist deep in water. It swam right up to us and had its mouth open. Then I took off my shoe and threw it at it. It hit the top of its head, and it closed its mouth. The crocodile then went under the water, and Miss Meadows jumped into the water in an apparent attempt to reach safety. Because the crocodile was in front of us, maybe she thought she could swim to the shoreline and get away," Miss Burchett said. "She let go of my arm, jumped off the ledge, took 2 strokes, and it grabbed her. It grabbed her around the waist and pulled her right under the water. Then he pulled her up out of the water, right in front of me. I looked her right in the face. She had her arms in the air, and she was looking right at me. Then it pulled her back under the water." The young woman's body was recovered the next day, which would have been her 25th birthday. Although tragic and heartbreaking, crocodiles are one of the few animals, like polar bears, who actively see humans as prey. Where most shark attacks are a case of mistaken identity, crocodiles actively attack humans, so it's best to heed the warnings of crocodiles in the area, and to never try to swim with them. Thank you so much for watching the video, and I hope to make more videos for you soon. March 9th, 1933. 10-year-old Mary Adams is in her bedroom, getting ready for school. She is worried and dreads making the trip. Not because school isn't fun. In fact, she loves playing with her friends and learning from her teachers. It's the getting there that worries her. Every day, she and her 6-year-old sister, Thelma, take their horse, like most children in the rural community of Pindi Pindi, to school. On their way, they pass the ironically named Alligator Creek. But in the last few days, as they get closer to the water, their horse becomes skittish and begins to panic whenever it nears. The girls try to see what's wrong, but the murky water prevents them from seeing anything at all. Eventually, though, the horse always calms himself, and the pair make their way to school. They like the independence of riding by themselves, so they decide to keep the incident a secret. If anyone found out, they could kiss their freedom goodbye. But today Mary questions if she should tell someone. After a bit of back and forth with herself, she decides if her horse acts up again, she would let someone know. After all, as the old saying goes, it's better to be safe than sorry. Mary grabs her bag and joins her sister on their trusty horse, and the two make their way to school. Unfortunately, Mary would never make it to class that day, as the next time anyone would see her, it would be in the belly of a monster. Hello, my name is Joseph Palmer, and today I wanted to talk about the heartbreaking case of Thelma and Mary Adams, two children who were devoured by an Australian crocodile on March 9th, 1933. Now, I think this goes without saying, but viewer discretion is advised. Now, without further ado, let's dive into the story of Thelma and Mary Adams. Thelma and Mary Adams grew up in Pindi Pindi, Australia. To say this place is rural would be an understatement. In 2016, the town had a population of just 98 people. The locality takes its name from the Pindi Pindi railway station, which was named by the Queensland Railway Department in 1915. Pindi Pindi is an Aboriginal word meaning creek or flowing water. With the area having such a small population, most people had to travel great distances nearly everywhere they went, including children. Mary and Thelma were no different, taking the family horse to school and back. And on March 9th, 1933, that was no different. The two girls left in the morning on their way to class. But when school began, people began to worry when the children were nowhere to be found. Alarms were raised even further when the horse returned home, soaked and trembling in fear. The family moved quickly, tracing their daughter's path, and soon they found something no parent ever wants to find. Floating on top of the water in Alligator Creek was 6-year-old Thelma. If that wasn't heartbreaking enough for the family, Mary was nowhere to be seen. A large search party was organized, led by Constable Gallagher. By this time, people believed something truly terrible had happened. With the creek being known for crocodiles, the constable had a plan. He placed dead wallabies in the water and laced the corpses with strychnine. Strychnine is a poison that was actually used in the 19th century for medical purposes. However, in large doses can be very fatal. A few days later, on March 17th, a 15-foot crocodile was found floating on top of the water. It was cut open to reveal the body of a small human. Clothing that Mary wore on that day confirmed it was indeed the missing 10-year-old. Here is what people close to the area, and people who had a first-hand account, believe what happened. On their way to school, the girls had to pass Alligator Creek. In order to pass it, the horse had to walk 40 yards through 3 feet of water. It is believed the crocodile pulled Mary off the horse and into the water where it devoured her. The horse became spooked and threw Thelma off his back, where she drowned. People believe the croc anticipated the girls as they made the trip frequently. The community was devastated, as not only did 2 children lose their lives, but this was the first death contributed to a crocodile in the area. Mary and Thelma Adams were 2 children who sadly lost their lives to one of the scariest and efficient predators the world has ever seen. And even though it's been nearly 100 years since it happened, hopefully they will be remembered for the intelligent and beautiful children they were. September 29th at around 8 p.m., Colin Inglis received a phone call from his nephew. He was a bit relieved. Hours earlier, he heard that his nephew and partner were delayed in reaching their camp in the Panther Valley area in Banff, Alberta. When Colin answered his phone, he was expecting the usual, "Made it to camp. See you when I get back. Love ya." Unfortunately, Colin was not prepared for what was about to be said, as when he picked up the phone, he heard only 3 words: "Bear attack. Bad." The phone then hung up, leaving Colin panicked and terrified. Banff is known for its dense grizzly population, and if he heard them correctly, they were in deep trouble. Unfortunately, Colin was not mistaken, and heard exactly what happened. There was a bear attack, and it was indeed very bad. Today I wanted to discuss the recently fatal bear attack that occurred in Banff National Park in Alberta, Canada. Now without further ado, let's dive into the tragic story. Doug Inglis and his partner Jenny were on a week-long backpacking trip in Banff National Park. The couple loved being outdoors and had planned this trip for a while. They also decided to take their 7-year-old border collie, Trish, along with them, and everything seemed to be going well. They were in contact with Colin Inglis, Doug's uncle, on Friday at 4:52 p.m. He received a text message that said they had been delayed in reaching their camp, but everything was okay. Just under 4 hours later, he received a phone call that simply said, "Bear attack. Bad." Parks Canada dispatchers received an alert at about 8 p.m. from the same inReach device about a bear attack west of Yaha-Tinda Ranch, about 200 kilometers northwest of Calgary. The agency immediately sent its wildlife human attack response team to the area by ground, because weather conditions in the mountains prevented them from using a helicopter. The team arrived at about 1 a.m. Saturday and found the 2 people dead. Parks Canada said the team, which is specifically trained in firearms and wildlife attack site investigations and forensics, encountered a grizzly bear that displayed aggressive behavior and charged towards them. The bear was shot and killed. A necropsy showed that the bear was old, underweight, and had bad teeth, but parks officials said it will likely never be known what led to the attack, and they wouldn't speculate. Inglis said he believes the couple were in the wrong place at the wrong time. They were always well prepared. On their backcountry trips, he said. But bears are unpredictable. This is a rogue bear. This is something unusual that has happened. He added that the couple had a routine. They would set up camp as soon as they arrived, start their food preparation, and send in-reach messages to family members. So we knew that they had established camp. They weren't out wandering around. Once it gets dark, he said they would typically get into their tent and read. We believe that is what they were doing, said Inglis, adding the dog would have been in the tent with the couple before the attack. He said the parks team found the tent had been crushed with their e-readers inside. The couple, he added, were found outside the tent. They were in stocking feet, so that's not normal. It was wet outside. It had been snowing. Park officials have said the couple's food had been hung appropriately, and 2 cans of bear spray were found at the scene. They did not say whether the spray, which can be effective with some bears, had been used. Inglis said that he was told that a bear spray canister had been emptied, and that there were signs the couple tried to scare off the bear. There was a struggle, and the struggle didn't stay in one place, he said. But in the end, both bodies were back together. They were reconnected. That's who they were. They were together in life always. Inglis said that the couple met as students at the University of Alberta and worked together in a lab for Agriculture Canada in Lethbridge. Part of the draw for being there was of course access to the backcountry, to Waterton Park and Banff Park, being in the places they love to be. Parks Canada said there have been 3 recorded, non-fatal encounters of grizzly bears in Banff National Park in the past 10 years, and no fatalities in decades. Doug and Jenny were 2 adventurers who wanted to explore the wilderness. They have done so before, and were very experienced. However, a freak encounter with a hungry grizzly tragically cut their lives short. I can only hope that the 2 can find peace in the hereafter.